And to follow up that mates clan match, we do have a diversity 2v2 clan match, this time on Pool Party. And as the team right side starting top right, we do have Orpheus? I don't even know. So, you know, it's got a number in there. It's some sort of crazy name. But as the yellow allies, we do have Mankiiiii. And as the cyan Empire, we do have Kalamies. No, we do have Emo69. And as the blue Soviets, we do have Kalamies. So, my mistake there. But we're going to have a little bit of infantry wars. And by that, I do mean bears versus dogs. And actually, we do have Mankiiiii getting the upper hand there with his dogs, going to be able to take out those 3 bears, no problemo. And his dog is now swimming through land, which is of course very standard protocol. And we do have the 2 Empire players on the top, which means we do have Empire versus Empire, and then on the bottom we do have Allies versus Soviets, and more dogs and bears are going to be eating each other up down here. And by eating, I do mean slapping in the face with their paws, which I feel like bears might just kind of win versus dogs. And we do have dogs going to be coming out once again, so Mankiiiii is not going to be giving up. He's not going to be surrendering the early game map control to our Kalamies. These names, I can't remember anything anymore. And we do have one of these instant dojo cores are not going to be thrown up for Orpheus, because he is going to be like, hey, I can just micro this around and run over all the infantry and hope that, you know, they don't pull out more tank busters than I can handle, because that will totally ruin me. And the micro is too good for Emo69, which is of course the best name ever. And Emo69 is going to be able to lose his barracks, which means the micro just got a whole lot easier for Orpheus, and he was able to get it anyway. So now Orpheus has 2 instant dojos, but he also has 3 tank busters, which are right outside of his base, going to be grabbing that civilian structure and doing some damage to these instant dojo cores, hopefully before they get out some infantry for Orpheus, because Emo69 going to be pushing there a little bit, and it may cost him these tank busters lives, but he will at least clean up Orpheus in the middle. And more Mankiiiii versus Kalamies on the bottom with these early infantry. And on the other hand, we do have dual ore refinery, so of course very standard, grabbing his oil derrick as well. All of these players have grabbed their oil derricks except for Orpheus, so he's not going to be grabbing his oil derrick just yet. As you can see, the engineer is completely forgotten about, because he doesn't care about his children, which, you know, is of course not true. I was just trying to say something silly. And we do have that civilian structure being taken, but dojo, or these Imperial Warriors, are going to be able to clean out this building very easily. And that Imperial Warrior, of course, very annoying. Anytime they go in a building with their secondary ability, the secondary ability stays activated. So in the case of, you know, infantry like the Imperial Warrior, where their secondary ability does no damage to ranged units, which are basically the only thing buildings attack, because buildings, they're pretty good, but they're not too good versus the, you know, like, melee stuff. So usually we do have an expansion being taken at this point, and I need to segue out of that death trap, and it didn't quite work. But we do have a little bit of harassment going down for this ore collector, and a sudden transport going to be probably grabbing the shape of that Tangu for Orpheus. Well, Tangu, or Orpheus's Tangu, and bears or dogs actually able to do a little bit of damage, and that dog does get shot down. Bullfrogs, on the other hand, not going to be a great choice, as there isn't a whole lot of air force here, more of just infantry, which the bullfrogs will get shot up by those infantry, and bullfrogs, of course, cannot run over infantry, which is very annoying. But Tangu's out of Orpheus, going to be combating our cyan Kalamies, which is down here in the blue Soviets, going to be doing some damage with his bears, while Emo69 is going to be pushing out, taking some of these buildings, getting some map control, getting some map vision, so that he can see, hey, is there a sneaky attack coming up? Well, I got my sudden transport, which is disguised now once again, and escapes as that purple Tangu, which he should just keep this with the other Tangus. If there was like a follow command, you can set the sudden transport to follow your enemy's units around, and then it would be almost impossible. It wouldn't be impossible, but at first glance, your opponent would never realize that it's not his. So we do have this sudden transport going to be not taken out yet again going to be escaping once again, and these two players, Orpheus and Emo69, going to be having small Tangu battles here. And the Tangus are, of course, a couple in the air in case these Tangus try to transform, but he should just take them out, transform down, deal that extra damage, and once again the sudden transport will escape with two of the tank busters, but they do get into the building. Perfect move by Emo69, going to be escaping a little bit there, and one of these peacekeepers does get left out in the cold. He's like, hey guys, I'm super confused. No, don't worry, I'm going to be fine in my horribly confused state. Anyways, we do have an expansion going down for Kalamies, which Emo69 has not taken an expansion yet. No, not quite. And also, at the same time, his opponent, Orpheus, has not taken an expansion either, and has also completely forgotten about that engineer, which he should just, grab the oil derrick, which, he just now did, and sell off the instant dojo. You get 250 cash back, plus that 500 you just got. That's $750 in your wallet. How can you resist that? That's not even like a regular cash back that you would normally get, but we do have a little bit of economy damage going down from Orpheus, going to be doing a little bit of damage, delaying the Ore Collector that much longer, and neither one of these players wants to engage, although Orpheus might just barely be able to take it. Of course not with his MCV here to run over all of his units, and actually getting a little bit gutsy with that terror drone going to be scouting around the map. Kalamies is, and Mankiiiii going to be pushing up the middle, taking the expansion. So actually he's now sitting on 4 ore nodes, so Mankiiiii is in pretty good shape to do quite a bit of damage. And, what is this? Yes, that is what we need to see, that bonsai charge, and actually the worst possible choice, because now they can't do anything, and they actually do. Oh, that glitch actually costing a tank buster his life. That poor tank buster got glitch killed. Kind of like glitch mobbed, but it's not the same at all in any way. But we do have now going to be bum rushing that building, and he needs to evacuate those Imperial warriors so that they do not get stuck in that position. And throwing down a sentry gun, always a viable option at your expansions. And the terror drone is going to be locking down this Riptide APC, which is actually a CV, because Kalamies wants to take it down, and his sentry gun will be able to do that without too much damage to the ore refinery. Needs to get his ore collector back to work right away. Yes, there we go, stand on top of that. Good job to Kalamies, and actually good job with the attempt at the, taking down some ore collectors. Good attempt with the, what do I even want to say? Harassment is what I wanted to say. Because you always gotta harass your enemy, especially if they're ahead on expansions. You need to do something to even the scores, or else you will lose, unless you can just simply outplay them, which is not something to bet on if you're me. If you're someone who's really good, then, you can bet on that. But actually, if he can actually just take this damage, I was gonna say, what is he doing? He needs to transform his Tangus to try and not lose his Mecha Bay, because that would be super, super annoying. Set him back, of course, in that tech as he is up to tier 2. Needs to get a Striker VX onto the air and do some damage. And actually, Orpheus going to be able to micro his units quite well, and actually only losing 1 to the MCB, and going to be engaging in Tangu battles. Who is going to be winning? Orpheus might, although he does have a Tangu on the ground, and no, it does look like Emo is going to be able to take it down, especially with the Striker VX dealing extra damage to these units. Of course, the point defense drone does prolong this battle, but there's now no escape for Orpheus, and he's like, hey, I'm going to turn my 1 Tangu around at the last moment. Never a good choice. If you're going to lose all of your units, the best thing you can do is do a little bit of extra damage, especially when they don't have a way to easily repair quite yet, as that Mecha Bay is going to be just now going down, which means he did have to spend those credits for the Mecha Bay, spend the time deploying the Mecha Bay, and then spend that credits and time re-getting that tier 2 upgrade, which actually he still controls these 3 buildings in the middle. A little bit of harassment over here. Cryo shot in combination with those cryocopters going to be able to freeze, and that 1 bomb micro so good in these situations at taking down those ore refineries. But as I was saying, he's going to have to re-get that tier 2 upgrade if he wants to be able to match the tech. Transform, transform, transform! Oh, Orpheus, you are going to lose something if you do not take care of these jet Tangus which are in your base. What am I even saying? Wow, I got those colors completely mixed up. I was thinking that Emo's Tangus were Orpheus, and made no sense. But makes total sense now, so despite what I may have said, I was completely wrong. But we do have, ooh, a little bit of tear. Oh, wow. That is not a combination you see very much. We have actually a fair amount of Tesla troopers inside of those twin blades, which is going to be, of course, very great because those Orclers just don't do very well versus the Tesla troopers, and just enough room to deploy them in there, and then the Tesla troopers do so much damage to vehicles, especially to those ore collectors, and they, no, going to be getting that. Oh yes, the refinery core will escape. Ow, wow, I almost felt the pain for Emo there, and actually going to be able to use his MCV quite effectively, microing it back and back. Yes, there we go, microing it back. And he needs to do something with this refinery core, but there's not a lot he can do. He can try and run it around the building and just, you know, keep that line of sight away from the Tangus. And now, wow, that was tense, but tsunami tanks are now up and more harassment over here. But the cryocopters are here and they're going to be able to freeze. They need to... Actually, that Peacekeeper able to do a little bit of damage. And no, the Peacekeeper does go down, which means he needs to do something about those Tesla troopers, take them out, and something. Yes, we do have the Athena Cannon going to be doing some damage, but taken down very quickly by those hammer tanks. And I almost felt the pain up here for that poor little ore, that ore refinery node. What are they? The Empire unit, the base building thing that I can't think of right now, but we do have hammer tanks getting shrunk down so that they can't deal quite as much damage, and this Mirage tank going to get locked down by that Terror drone, not allowing it to switch into that cloaked mode as not quite, but we do have a beacon right over there, a nice flare, which actually might be some satellites coming down, and actually the V4 able to get it. No, it is going to be a Badger bomber, going to be eliminating any infantry that come out of that barracks right away. And actually, this battle is still going on, so these Mirage tanks just now going down. The V4 is able to do a little bit of damage, but they are trying to hit these mobile units, which, how is this Mirage tank still alive? I don't even know how the Mirage tank is alive. This Apocalypse tank will take that Mirage tank down there, right there. Now it is completely gone, but Emo and Orpheus. Too many mates replays, but we do have Orpheus and Emo going to be doing a little bit of damage to each other, so this game is fairly active across the board, and the Apocalypse tank might actually get frozen while shrunk down, and there, the Bullfrog is now back up and in action, and these, oh no, not able to take it down, but going to get frozen as well, and now the Mirage tanks are going to be able to roll up and do some damage, and also throwing his infantry inside of those structures. But what's going on back at the base, we do have these two Tesla troopers who are able to bust out of their walled prison, and are going to be able to do a fair amount of damage to this ore refinery, so it's not going to be a total waste there, as, oh, taking down the airfield and the armor facility, that war factory for Kalamies does in fact go down, and now, yes, with that veteran, with that heroic Javelin Trooper in there, this could be it for Kalamies, which means this game might go into the Team Right side's favor, but, you know, Emo is not doing too shabby, and he might actually be coming to the rescue of his allies. His ally is, you know, getting locked down. His expansion did, or his ore node, his refinery did get taken out, losing some power plants, going to be losing probably this super reactor, and that super reactor will, of course, most likely go down. It's not even really worth your time to take care of this one conscript, especially when you could be taking down a super reactor or another reactor. That's, of course, you know, actually going to do a little bit. And the MCV, no, the Battle Lab, as I did say MCV, I meant Battle Lab, does go down, and what is trying to be built, a war factory, which actually does still have this water expansion, could sell off that sentry gun since it's probably not going to be used, and he does need the cash. Kalamies is not in a great position, although this is a pretty crazy battle. It's hard to tell exactly who is who. We do have Tangus from Orpheus going to be getting totally eliminated. That Emperor's Rage is pretty good, but at the same time, your units move quite slowly, and oh, just able to get that ore refinery, but did lose his entire army in the process, which means Orpheus is kind of not doing anything at all, as he's got one Tangu, and that is it, while his opponent, his direct opponent, Emo, is doing pretty good. But on the other hand, on the down opponents, these opponents on the down side of the map, you know, the reverse team is not doing very good, as Kalami is going to be getting taken out by Mankiiiii here very shortly, although he has redeployed his MCV, got up an ore a war factory, and now an ore refinery, and he does still have this ore refinery, does still have this oil derrick, which means Kalamies is not out of it yet. And if we see a crazy comeback, that will of course be awesome. And actually, that ore collector, is it glitched out, or does it actually exist? I'm guessing it's glitched out since it's just sitting there not doing anything. But it is very difficult to tell. Going to be canceling most likely that reactor. Still trying to get out that ore refinery, just not able to do it quite yet, and that Mirage tank is going to be going to town. Needs to sell off those walls. Might as well sell off the ore refinery now, as he is not going to get another load of ore, and, you know, it's not going to be doing a whole lot for him now. But we do have a single Bullfrog going to be doing some damage to the Vindicator, which if he can take out this heroic Vindicator versus focus firing down on the Apollos and not able to get it, and now that Bullfrog will get taken out by these Javelin Troopers most likely, unless the Javelin Troopers try to focus on taking out the Imperial Warrior, which this Imperial Warrior could clean up these Javelin Troopers. He needs to be turned around by Emo to take out those Javelin Troopers, and this War Factory may go down by this one heroic Javelin Trooper. But it depends on what is going to be coming out of there. Is it going to be a sickle, or is it going to be a Bullfrog, which cannot run over infantry? And on the other side, on the other hand, it also can't do damage to infantry, which is not exactly what you need when infantry are killing your base. But this one Imperial Warrior could become the hero that Emo needs, but not necessarily the one he deserves. As yes, it does switch into that Bonsai Charge, taking out one of those Javelin Troopers, taking out a second one, and taking out the third one. Yes, able to clean out all three of those. So Emo doing a good job staying focused and making sure he's doing stuff right. And these two Mirage tanks are going to get crushed by the MCV. No, stand on top of that micro like he needs to be. Mankiiiii is going to be able to micro his Mirage tanks around that very slow-moving MCV and able to do some damage. But, ooh, the Chopper VXs are here, which means they are going to be able to clean up these two Mirage tanks very easily, and he could have tried to just, you know, force them to hold position there, but then they could have been run over by the MCV, and then what do? You're, you know, dead if you do, dead if you don't. So these players, all four of these players, are still very much in this game, but now we are going to be hitting a little bit of a lull in the battles, as, oh no, going to be moving out. Mankiiiii is going to be moving to over here where his opponent, Kalamies, is trying to rebuild. Not going to be able to do a whole lot about that, though, and that Mirage tank goes down without really doing anything. And now this Athena cannon, totally unprotected, is going to go down quite quickly from those Chopper VXs. And now, with the joint strike force of Kalamies and Emo, they may be able to make something happen, as the army for, not even a Mecha Bay left for Orpheus, not doing very good at all. And this is probably the point where I found out I've actually been pronouncing the name wrong this entire time, and he's like super pissed, but that's okay. When you got a name with like 8 letters in it and that sort of thing going on, not everyone's going to pronounce it right, and considering I don't even know how to pronounce words right anyways, I don't pronounce things right anyways, but could be doing a little bit like taking these expansions is what Mankiiiii could be doing. As he, look at that, 15,000, 20,000 credits left in there. And for those of you who are really good at math, you'll know that that's over 35,000 credits, which could be in Mankiiii's pocket over time, and actually going to be able to take down all 3 of those Javelin Troopers. And I'm not sure why that one Javelin Trooper wasn't paralyzed by that bear's roar, as that is pretty terrifying. And this game may be worth it just because of this. Orpheus is like, you know what, I'm really down on this. I have no army currently, but you know what, ore collectors, it always works. Which actually, if he's able to do any real damage with this, I will be so happy. We do have Apollos. What are they doing? Just getting shot down by those jet Tangus, not doing a whole lot. But unfortunately, the Tsunami tanks are here, going to be able to clean up this very small ore collector attack force, which that's always a viable option. Like, if all you've got left is an ore refinery, just build a whole lot of ore collectors. As you can see, is exactly what is happening. but the ore refineries are going to be getting taken out by Kalamies and Emo, as, yeah, Kalamies is, no, he's just pushing in with Bullfrog, so actually, no, none of the structures will get taken down by Kalamies just yet, but Kalamies is going to be expanding all across the map and throwing down a super reactor, which means we could see more hammer tanks, and this means that Mankiiiii needs to make something crazy happen, like, you could take these expansions if he wants. Yeah, just a casual idea, although he does not have vision there, so he doesn't know they're totally vacated. Although he does know that he killed stuff there, but he doesn't know that his opponent hasn't rebuilt there. And that is why scouting is, of course, very important, which is always easy to say in the caster's chair, sitting back here with full map view. Be like, oh yeah, just take that expansion, dude, it's totally free, but... And then in-game, I'm like, hey, I've got, you know, like 20,000 credits, and I haven't expanded yet, and I'm still sitting on one base. Which, you know, is normally what happens with me, and the mass ore collector attack is going to be so absolutely potent. Could actually sell up one of these instant generators and maybe even some of those walls, but it is of course up to him. He actually might need both of those power plants to power all three of those refineries, and his, of course, massed ore collector army. He's going to need that to take back this game, which actually I wonder how many ore collectors would it take to actually be able to take down like an MCV within a reasonable amount of time, because yeah, you know, ore collectors eventually going to take down an MCV, but would you need like 20 ore collectors to actually make a significant attack? Because, you know, if it takes you 14 minutes to take down an MCV, your opponent can just build up an army. So it would be kind of interesting to see mass AP or mass ore collector battles going on and mass ore collector games, and just turning yourself into an arch is just so silly. Like, imagine a Mirage tank in the real world, and they're just like, there was a tank here, but then there was a pile of rocks. And yeah, I don't know what happened. And oh, able to get 3 of those. Yes, all 3 of those bullfrogs, which was basically the entire army, but not anymore. The entire army for Kalamies, not anymore, because he does have those twin blades, and his MCV can run over some stuff, but the bears don't really count, because there's not a huge amount of infantry on this map, especially, this is what I'm talking about, like, three ore collectors just taking down an ore refinery. That is not something you see every day, and that is, of course, what Team Diversity is all about. They're about ore collectors taking down stuff, which would be a pretty crazy idea for a clan. They're like, yeah, we're gonna base our clan on ore collectors because they seem to be like a pretty underutilized unit. I mean, I think like people use them, but they don't micro them like they should. They're probably some sort of like bad British accent is their nationality. Anyways, we do have silly battles going on here, as Apollo's going to be able to take down the Twin Blade. No, that Twin Blade is going to be able to escape, and the Apollos are going to take some damage, one of them going down from those chopper VXs, but on the other hand, the ore collectors are able to take down a wave force artillery, and when you get to that point, you're like, yeah, taking down, got my heroic ore collector here. Heroic ore collector. That's absolutely silly. This game is absolutely silly. You'd think, you know, King Oni's Wave Force Artillery Tier 3 units would be able to best an ore collector, but there's just some units that are just too OP, and of course, ore collectors are them. But one of his unit-producing structures is now offline, and he is not doing a whole lot of building out of these other ones, which means his army size is going to dwindle as they get taken out slowly one by one, and deploying your MCV and then redeploying it, just trying to break that attack, break the AI a little bit there with those attacks, and still hasn't expanded. Mankiiiii has not taken those expansions, and my mouse freaking out a little bit, but King Oni should be able to clean up this army in conjunction with this single heroic Twin Blade, and no more heroic ore collectors, and this had better be it for Orpheus, which, as much as I love his his ore harvester push, if he won with it, I would just be like, what? Kalamies, Emo, what are you guys even doing? How would they even be like playing this game at all, ever, by losing to something like that? Which is probably something I would do. Just like, I got this game in the bag, and then like all of a sudden 4,000 ore collectors pour up from like some part of the map that I don't have map vision in. Anyways, we do have a Mirage tank out of Mankiiiii. I've been going on all sorts of crazy tangents this entire game, But, you know, there's not a whole lot going on, just little teeny tiny skirmishes around the map, acrobatics by javelin soldiers. Look, they're so bored that they're doing somersaults, and actually selling off your tier 3 tech, which I guess you don't need it since his Mecha Bay is tier 3, and probably his Instant Dojo is tier 3 as well, and now Emo is going to be mass expanding, I should hope, or at least expanding, because, you know, if you see one refinery core, that's mass expanding. Let's just be honest here. It's mass expanding. He needs to really pull his army together, Orpheus does. He needs to pull his army together so that he can have his full strike force potential at his enemy's base when he needs it. Instead of, you know, throwing some in civilian structures and then splitting up your army like this. Never a good idea. As you can see, basic principles even applied to satellites falling from the sky. Going to be able to take out that ore collector, but not the ore refinery. Team diversity is just absolutely silly with this replay, dragging it on, possibly longer than it needs to be, but these players not able to take each other out, and now the tier 3, and actually mixing in some tier 1 and tier 2 there as well. Strike Force is going to be moving out for Emo, and I hope he can turn this game around and do some damage to his opponents and actually bring out the win, or, on the other hand, if Mankiiiii wants to bring out the win, that would be pretty crazy too. But they are the players with the most armies, with the most units, and with the most expansions as well. And actually, oh, crazy good or bad, I can't actually tell. Oh, was able to freeze a single wave force artillery, so a pretty good cryo shot. And yeah, that was the only thing. That entire part of the screen went completely white, but only one thing got frozen. And now what do we have? We have Emo getting pushed back by a few infantry from Orpheus, but you know, 2 heroic Imperial warriors can do quite a bit of damage over time, but they still weren't able to take out this army, which tier 3, pretty hard to take out with, especially the King Onis, to take out with just a couple of Imperial wars and a couple of ore collectors, which still going strong on that ore collector production, I would hope, although he's not actually building anything right now, but he should be. Orpheus, you know, what else are you going to be spending your money on except for long-distance mining trips, which actually he might be able to get this airfield, which would take Kalamies' unit production abilities and put them down quite a bit, as he does not have a whole lot else going on for him. Was able to expand here, which actually Emo's like, hey, I want that expansion, man. You got, like, the other expansion and, like, the one expansion that you have, and I want this one. Whoa! Was able to take out that airfield, which is, quite frankly, the most exciting thing that's happened in the past couple of minutes. But this MCV going down would be absolutely exciting in here, and freezing, or shrinking his MCV, not freezing there, to allow it to escape. So good use of that shrink ray from Mankiiiii, and yeah, and as you can see, selling off the buildings, because he's going to lose them anyways. He might have been able to keep his refinery there for one more trip of ore, but then that would have been it. Selling off his units, his base, not his units, his base, to get as much cash as he can. Not going to be selling off his base defenses just yet, although they will most likely be completely useless for the remainder of this game, and actually selling off everything. Yep, Mankiiiii has been defeated, which means very shortly Orpheus will pump out all of the ore collectors he needs to win this game, take it back, and win the World Championship, which this, of course, is the Red Alert 3 World Championships, and no, it's not. Please do not believe that. But Orpheus and Mankiiiii have both been defeated, which means Team Left Side was our victors in this absolutely silly game, which possibly went on more than it should have, but we do have a roughly 20-minute game, 21 minutes, 37 seconds for those of you who can't read numbers in front of your face. But we do have all of the stats for these players, so if you want to check those out, we do have Emo winning in the unit kill to death ratio section, and let's take a look at that resource graph. Emo actually not doing very good until just the very end there, but Mankiiiii doing quite well, and Kalamies was the only one keeping up in the economy with Mankiiiii until the very end there, as Mankiiiii did pull way ahead and was not able to bring out the win despite it. He did have a lot of segregated strike forces, and by that I do not mean racially segregated. I mean he had like 1 or 2 Mirage tanks engaging. Instead of building up a critical mass of units, he had like 3 infantry on this side of the map and 2 Mirage tanks over here. So we did have some mistakes out of these players, and I'm sure some of you will be able to spot far more than I was able to, but quite an entertaining game nonetheless. And these players did fairly well, all things considered, much better than I would be able to do, but that about does it. I hope you enjoyed it. This is Sybert signing out.